Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Today in the studio we have Debbie Goodman. Debbie has her own program on CMAC, and so I've watched it and I've seen her on social media, and I'm impressed by some of the things that she does. She has a love for martial arts. So Debbie, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
First, before we get into your show and your guests that you've had on it, tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised here in Fresno. I lived in Merced for a little while. I graduated from Hoover High School, Fresno City College, Fresno State, San Joaquin College of Law. Started studying martial arts in the late 1980s. I tried out a couple of schools before I finally landed at John Cho's Kung Fu School. What drove me to take martial arts is I was always interested in it. When I was in high school, there was a TV show called Kung Fu with David Carradine. But I never knew where to go to take lessons until I had to. I was threatened by someone, and I thought, well, it's due time.
Wow. So what is it about martial arts that really got you interested, do you think? Because, there's several different styles. Mm-hmm. What is it about martial arts? Really,
for me, it's the philosophy. And Kung Fu has, in my opinion, great philosophy. I tried, like I said, I tried what's called a hard style. I tried Shotokan, which the instructor was very nice, but I got bored very quickly. It just wasn't moving fast enough for me. Then I tried another school. I liked the moves better, but there was no philosophy. So it wasn't really until I came around to Kung Fu. There's philosophy to go along with it. It's not about street fighting. First and foremost, it's for the self-defense. Secondly, I really enjoyed doing tournaments. I enjoyed competing. I started off first in forms, or kata as they call it in karate. And then when I got into weapons, I really loved it. Weapons are just, it's beautiful. It's like dancing with a prop, although it's a sharp sword in your hand.
Well, and a lot of people bunch them all together.
Right.
Martial arts, karate, jiu-jitsu,
MMA,
all kinds of things all in one bowl. Mm-hmm. There are differences then, from what I understand, between them.
Absolutely.
So someone like, perfect example. So my wife and I, we have 2 kids, and so if I want my kid to learn self-defense and learn how to defend himself when he's out there and someone is picking on them, what would you recommend?
Well, I don't want to mention the names of any schools, but I can mention a couple that I'm familiar with. John Cho's Kung Fu teaches, their movements are those of self-defense. Kathy Kwan, she's great with kids. She's great with adults. She's a teacher herself. I believe she teaches 2nd grade, but she's really all about that discipline, and she really encourages the kids.
And do you recommend kids learning these kind of things?
Absolutely.
And what are some of the reasons?
For so many reasons. Discipline. No, they really do. They teach a lot of discipline, and they teach confidence. I think when kids realize that they can defend themselves against a bully, gives them confidence. Knock on wood, I've never had to use my martial arts on the street. It's better to have it, not need it, than need it and not have it. But I would say the confidence and the discipline, first and foremost, especially for children.
So when they teach you martial arts,
mm-hmm.
Are they teaching you to hit certain places? Or let's say that I know martial arts, let's say. I don't, but I do. And I'm walking down the street and someone comes and picks on me.
Right.
So is my training going to be to kind of neutralize him or her?
First of all, you don't want to be the first one to take a swing. No, seriously, you don't want to be the first one to take a swing. Okay, martial arts are usually taught defensive, not offensive. Okay, I mean, I could talk for hours about the differences in martial arts, but generally we work off of the attack itself.
So it's like a, I'm a boxing fan. Mm-hmm. So it's like a counter punch, basically. Mm-hmm. You're countering what someone does to you.
Right.
And you haven't used it yourself, but I'm sure that, there's been times where of people that have used it to defend themselves. I mean, do you remember any stories that people have told you regarding when someone has defended themselves knowing martial arts?
Yes, I've heard some very interesting stories, actually. A friend of mine is a musician, and he and his band found themselves in a situation where actually his wife had studied martial arts, and she ended up in the fight.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So you have a show on CMAC, and I've watched your show, and you travel all over, first of all, for this show.
It's been interesting because when I first started, it was supposed to be just local martial arts schools. I was going to interview the owners, instructors, have them do a little demonstration. I got the idea many years ago from a show up in San Francisco called Kung Fu Theater, which was hosted by Tap Mao Wong. But I met, through Jimmy Willis, who was the first guest on my show, I met Eric Lee, who's a very well-known, world-renowned martial artist, and he's been in movies. So you ask most martial artists, they know who Eric Lee is. So through Eric Lee, I met other people, and through those other people, I met other people, and pretty soon I was interviewing the actor who played Suge Knight in Straight Outta Compton. Don the Dragon Wilson is one of my favorite guests. James Liu, I waited 20 years to meet him. I used him as my bargaining chip at one point in time. I said, you get me an interview with James Liu, I'll come down anytime he can do it. So Cynthia Rothrock, these are people who graced the covers of magazines back when I was beginning martial arts.
And so what is the process? I mean, how do you find your guests for your show?
Well, let's see. Like I say, when I first got started, I invited people that I already knew from right here in Fresno. And then the word spread. And I was getting phone calls from people I didn't know. Saying, when are you going to come and interview me? It's like, who are you? Oh, you're in San Francisco. Oh, you're in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've traveled. I was watching one show where you were in Southern California. So you've traveled. Talk about the places you've traveled and who you've interviewed at these places.
Okay, the furthest I've traveled, and it was my very first time on the East Coast. I went to Atlantic City in January.
Wow, Atlantic City. Okay, tell us how that worked out.
Okay, Alan Goldberg has a big martial arts convention every January. And so I went back there and I was able to interview Chuck Zito and Hank Garrett and, well, of course, Don the Dragon Wilson. We went ahead and filmed one of his seminars, and also Cynthia Rothrock. Bill Wallace, Bill Superfoot Wallace, he is a character. I have to get a full interview with Bill one of these days. He's a little bit hard to pin down. But it was a great time. And next month, I've been invited to Las Vegas. Dr. Robert Goldman has an anti-aging convention every December in Las Vegas. And he has guests like our former governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's friends with a guy named Sylvester Stallone who had some fight movie many years ago, Rocky something.
A pretty big fight movie.
Pretty. I mean, it's incredible the people I have met through doing this show. I never dreamed. Like I say, when it started, in fact, this is like my 3-year anniversary. It started 3 years ago, and it was supposed to be just a little local, TV show to give martial arts school owners the opportunity to tout their school a little bit. But it grew
into something else.
It grew. It's been fabulous.
What are some of your goals with the show?
Wow. I would love to take it to another level. I think it would be great if I could turn it into a career. If I could turn this into a career,
Then,
I would
yeah.
be so happy. You know, maybe go to some of the UFC fights, interview some of the fighters. But because of my interest in the entertainment business, I've kind of stuck with martial arts movie stars. Doug Wong trains a lot of actors. He started in Kung Fu with David Carradine. He trains a lot of actors for martial arts movies. Some of my guests that I haven't yet had the opportunity to interview, but I would like to put the message out there to my martial arts friends. If I could get an interview with Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris would be a good one.
Chuck Norris would be a good one. Jackie Chan. Those are kind of my top two right now.
So when you see someone's style, do you know right away that what they're, I mean, perfect example. So recently there was a big fight that a lot of people are talking about. Ronda Rousey was defeated. Yes, she lost the fight against a very strong boxer. And so some people may look at that and say, okay, well, they're using martial arts, or they're using boxing, or they're using jiu-jitsu. But when you see something like that, when you see two people fight, can you immediately pin what they're doing?
I might not get the exact style, but I can tell the difference between a hard stylist and a soft stylist. There's I don't even want to call them basic styles, but there's Taekwondo, three popular styles, let's put it that way.
Good way to put it, by the way.
Karate, and there is Taekwondo, and there's Kung Fu. Now, I can tell Kung Fu stylists, sometimes without even seeing them do anything. We just have a little different way about us.
And you know, don't spend too much time doing this, but can you tell a little bit about each one? I mean, can you tell a little bit of the differences so that maybe when I see something, I mean, I get it confused all the time. I see someone and I say, oh, they're doing Taekwondo, and someone says, no, 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 that's Kung Fu. So, I mean.
I'll give you a little, just a little. Karate is more of a straightforward punching and kicking.
Okay.
Okay. Taekwondo is known for their high kicks.
Ah, so see, okay.
Okay. Kung Fu is more of a fluid motion, a flowing motion. Okay. And depending, some of them are animal styles. There's even a style of Kung Fu called drunken style Kung Fu, where the practitioner may look like their movements would be that of somebody who's drunk. But I would say probably the animal styles are most popular. So you might use tiger claw or a serpent strike, or you see. So that's how you can kind of tell a Kung Fu practitioner from, say, a karate or Taekwondo.
Do we have a lot of people walking around that know these things? I mean, there's obviously they're not going to wear a name tag saying I'm trained in X or Y.
Right.
But when people, in your opinion, when people are walking around out there, do we have a lot of people that are trained in this that you can't tell?
Yep, absolutely. Oh, I'm the biggest one. Everybody says, "Who knew? You? Do you actually do martial arts?" It's like, no, I just picked a topic and decided to make a TV show about it. Yeah, Cynthia Rothrock. If you were to see her on the street and not know who she was, you would not guess, oh, wow, this is one of the world's top female martial artists.
But you mess with her, I bet you'll pay the price.
Oh, my God. She is so petite. I didn't realize how petite she was until I saw her without shoes on. It was like, whoa. And I'm only 5'6". Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell.
And that's another thing I wanted to ask about, and I'm glad you brought it up, size-wise. So I'm 6 foot, and there are people who are much shorter than me, but that'll beat me up, and that'll beat me up hard. So, I mean, people who are intimidated because they're shorter, let's say, does that play a factor in this? I mean, should they care, and does that determine what style they should select?
Now, that is a good question. The only way I think you can really determine your style is to try out a few different ones. Find what you fall into. I've taken many different styles. Like I say, I started off in Shotokan, and then I tried sort of a blended style. Kung Fu, I've done Tai Chi, done a little bit of Taekwondo. I've done a little Wushu. Wushu's very intense. So, you know, a little Eskrima.
Wow.
But I tend to always kind of go back to the soft styles, the Kung Fu and the Tai Chi.
How long is the training for something like this? I mean, if we were to put, let's say, my children in this, or me, I've never done Taekwondo. I've always been a boxing fan. So if I were to get in a fight, chances are we're going to end up boxing each other. But how long is the training? I mean, what can you say about the length of time that someone is involved in this?
I'm so glad you asked. I believe that I learned this from the TV show Kung Fu. In order to master Kung Fu, it takes half a lifetime.
Wait a minute. Half a lifetime?
Half a lifetime.
So somebody who, wow.
Martial arts, it's not something you just go out, do for 3 years, get your black belt, and quit. Because if you quit, you regress. Yeah, and so that's why the belt system means nothing to me. I get kids asking me all the time, because I work in the high schools, what belt are you? It's like, I'm not a belt number one, you know. But well, are you a black belt? Do I qualify as a black belt? Yes. Do I consider myself a black belt? No. Because to me, it is a lifelong journey. It's not about getting a belt and quitting, which a lot of people do. I mean, you could whip it out in a couple of years, depending on the style. You know. Now, you asked about enrolling your children in martial arts. I would say as long as they're interested, because I've seen kids go from kindergarten, high school, college, you know, and maybe they have to quit for a couple of years to go to school or work or do whatever. But most martial artists, we come back around to it.
Interesting. You know, while watching the fight, I have a cousin who's about 6'4". He's in great shape. I mean, his arms are big. He's a strong person, and he's always been fit all his life. And one time I asked him, I said, you know, why didn't you get involved in fighting at all? Because, you know, you're a big guy, you're a strong guy. I mean, you've done great. He was a quarterback. You've done great playing quarterback. And he said something that got me thinking. He said, these people, the training is so intense to do this. It's incredible. So it's not like, oh, I want to fight somebody. Let me train for a year and I could fight somebody. I mean, he made it sound like these people day in and day out, every minute, they're training. I mean, is that true?
Yes. Don the Dragon Wilson, I guess I may not be able to explain it right, but the way it is they're basically, if they want him to do a fight, they're paying him while he trains. They have a payment schedule, okay? Because you basically, that is your job. From the time you get up in the morning, what you eat, how you train, what you do. Yeah, it's serious. It's a job. Most people, they might go to a tournament and spar for the fun of it, you know, to win a trophy or whatever. But as far as fighting for money, it's a job.
And you know, we're talking about it like it's fun and games, and it is fun, but it's really dangerous though. If you have someone who maybe is not very disciplined and is learning all this, could be dangerous.
That's very true.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very true. It's what that instructor puts up here determines the outcome of that, the student. There's a movie that's just been released called The Martial Arts Kid. And it's great. I can't wait till it's on DVD. But it shows the good instructor who actually trained the antagonist. Okay, so the antagonist breaks away from him and takes the bad route, you see.
Interesting.
And then they have a face-off in the end. It's really a great anti-bullying movie. And I think that it should be shown in the schools. I think that they should have like assemblies or sort of a rally situation where they can show it to the kids and have a discussion. So it's that good. They're showing it. There's a limited theatrical release right now, but they are showing it all around the United States, and Dawn makes appearances, and some of the other actors from the film will make appearances. Jansen Panettiere, his sister is Hayden Panettiere. She's on Nashville. He is the star of the movie. He is the martial arts kid.
Sounds like a big movie then.
It is.
Interesting.
It is, and I followed it all along because I kind of jumped on board from the very start when they did a Kickstart program.
Ah, interesting. Fresno area. Do we have good schools to train people on this? Because we're not a big city. We're not Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York. So do we have adequate schools in the area to train people on how to be an expert in martial arts or kung fu or any of the styles?
We have had some of the most incredible instructors in this area. I didn't realize how lucky I was. I used to take Tai Chi from Julian Chen. He has since moved on. I took a little bit of Wushu from Chu Ying Fong. She has since moved on. Stuart Kwan has passed on. He was great. I really like my instructor, John Cho, because I guess we see eye to eye on a lot of things. The last time I counted, we had 60 martial arts schools in Fresno. Not all of them I would recommend, but I do have a lot of friends that I like, and I think they're great people, and I think they're good instructors. There's Anton Pointer, who throws a big tournament twice a year, usually April and November. I think he just had one recently. Again, I just tell people, try out a couple of different schools. See how your child or how you connect with the instructor. Because I've tried schools where the instructor was great, the style was fine, it just didn't click in with me.
Your show, when does it air? How often are you recording? Because you're traveling a lot.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit more about your show. Where can we find out more information about it?
Well, I do know that they're showing a lot of reruns of shows that I've recorded. And I believe I have about 50 episodes out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And again, they just happen. We did one earlier this year that was a lot of fun. We did it out in Madera. It was a contest. I had announced at Anton Pointer's tournament, I said, whichever school gives me the most likes on my Facebook page, Martial Arts Mania, I will come out to their school and we'll put you on TV.
Wow.
So there was a school out in Madera. I think it's called The Dojo. Pete Valdez is the instructor. And I'll tell you, I think I got like 47 likes from his school. So we went out there one Saturday. They were so well organized. I think he had his entire school there. And I said, all right, I want you to teach a class just as you would teach a class. And I says, we'll shoot the kids. We interviewed some of the kids. We interviewed some of the parents. And it was just one of those great down-home sort of shows. It's you want to get down to the grassroots. You want to get down to the real people.
Right.
Love my celebrities. They make my show great. But every once in a while, it's just that down-home feel. So I actually want to do more of those shows here in Fresno, where we go out to the school and show them in action.
The action shots, are they hard to do? I mean, because there's a lot of movement.
There's a lot of movement. We might have to do a couple of different angles, but not too terribly hard. It's the editing that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I leave that up to my co-producer, Bestina. I'll do a lot of the basic cutting. I let her do the polishing.
Someone who maybe is not the strongest person. I mean,
Right.
because I hear this all the time where, oh, I'm not strong enough to do this or that. I mean, strength is important, but tell us a little bit about, comments like that when you hear them.
Strength is in here. It doesn't require a lot of strength. It really does. There are certain points on the body, 10 pounds of pressure will do it, or less. Accidentally, one time, one of my Kung Fu brothers was just messing around with me. He was pestering me. And I reacted, and I nailed him accidentally. And it hurt him so bad, he cried for 20 minutes. I mean, seriously, it just, because it stunned him so bad. It was, you know, especially when you hit some part of the face, smack somebody real hard on the nose sometime, just watch the tears come. Pop them in the eye, watch the tears come, you know. So it doesn't really require a lot of strength. Good aim, maybe, you know, but...
And these are all things that the class would teach you. I mean, a self-defense class would teach you some of these things.
I actually used to teach women's self-defense classes through Clovis Adult, Fresno Adult. I taught it at, you know, women's gyms, maybe a 6-week program. But one of the things that I always stressed is don't be overly confident. Be confident, but don't be cocky. Oh, well, I took 6 weeks of, you know, self-defense. I can go out and whip anybody. I said, no. You know, use it when you need it.
Yeah. Well, we're running out of time this week on the program, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to plug your website or your Facebook page. You know, how can people find out the cool things you're doing?
Well, my Facebook page is called Martial Arts Mania. It's a photo of one of my greatest moments of my show. We got invited down to James Liu's house in Southern California, and that's the day that I met Don the Dragon Wilson, and there's a picture of his manager / brother, James Wilson. So in the background, it's Don Wilson, me, James Liu, James Wilson, and then in the profile picture is a recent photo taken with Don the Dragon Wilson. He's wearing a black Traditions t-shirt. I'm wearing a red Traditions t-shirt, and Traditions is his brother's company.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. To the volunteer crew that make this production and every production possible, thank you. We couldn't do this without you. They're in the studio now. Thank you to our audience members listening to this broadcast on 90.7 FM KFSR Fresno, and to those watching this broadcast on Comcast 93 and AT&T 99. Hope you enjoyed the show this week. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Tune in next week to a new edition.